All right. How is everybody doing? Wait for everybody to start filtering in. Hopefully everybody's doing good today. Let's see. Let me adjust this a little bit. There you go. We got some good stuff to talk about. So we'll get into it here in just a second, but I'll let everybody start filtering in. Let me post. All right. Hey, how's everybody doing? Hope everybody's doing good today. It is a fine Wednesday afternoon, my dudes. Sorry, Thursday afternoon, my dudes. Time keeps on slipping. So we have some map updates to go over today. We're going to talk about the Ivanovets missile cruiser that was sunk today. In the Black Sea Fleet. So we got that to talk about. And then we have some news coming out of Israel and Gaza, Lebanon, and the Middle East. So we're going to cover that today as well. Yeah, it's Thursday. I don't know why I thought it was Wednesday. I have stuff that I do on Wednesday too that only happens on Wednesday, and it's not happening today. So I'm not quite sure what's going on there. Let's see. How much do you squat, bro? Right now, probably like 315 for reps, but I don't squat a whole lot. I don't find that it particularly helps my body grow and improve in the gym. So I do a lot of hack squatting, a lot of leg press. Sometimes I Smith machine squat, but I rarely like back squat anymore. Yeah, while we're waiting, I can show you my dog. Hades, come here. Come here. Come here, dork. Come here. Everybody wants to see you. There he is. Come here. Let me move that. All right, come here. There he is. He's a good boy. He's huge. It's hard to tell because he's sitting down right now, but he's big dog. He's good. Come on, buddy. Share where you live. Are you scared much? Bro. Bro, first off, imagine being scared of somebody on the internet. Second off, look at me. I can shoot a gun better than you and I can fist fight better than you. So let's go anytime. And then on top of that, everybody already knows where I live. I live in both New Mexico and Texas. I moved in between two different places. So yeah, everybody knows what's going on with me. It's not really you're not really very intimidating hiding behind your little computer screen. You gotta love it though. Gotta love dorks on the internet. Never get tired of that. So oh nice, California. There are very nice parts of California. Do I have a full-time job? No, actually, I just quit my full-time job. I wanted to pursue this more, and I'm pursuing another career path. So I actually just stopped working. Where in Texas? The Fort Worth area. Bring back Glenn. No, I actually had to block Glenn because it was fine for the streams, but then he was being super annoying on every single one of my posts. If you just go onto my post and keep like spamming shit, I just get tired of that. So yeah. It takes high intelligence and training to shoot a fucking gun. No, but if you've ever seen the difference between somebody who has shot a gun like for maybe 1,000 hours compared to somebody who has never fired a gun in their life or thinks that they know how to fire a gun and pretends like they do, there's definitely a difference. There's also a difference between people who know how to engage in a firefight and people who don't know how to engage in a firefight. And that's why you see a lot of, maybe I shouldn't say that. In combat, you see a lot of times special forces will go in and absolutely wipe the floor with less trained individuals because of course they do. So All right. All right. Well, I guess we'll get started. We got enough people in here now. So, um, do Scott, do you know if the aid package was approved today? I think that the EU has passed the 50 billion. I think that Hungary rescinded their veto, which is acceptable. We're going to talk about that today. Remember, guys, for everybody listening, before we get into this, if you have questions that you want answered while I'm talking about a subject, if you do a super chat and do it that way, I will instantly get to it because I see it pop up. If you have questions and you want them answered, I will go back at the end and look through some questions, ask if you guys have questions. But I definitely miss probably 90% of the questions. So uh, if you want your question read off on air and talked about, then we can definitely get that done. And if you have a question that I don't answer on air, you're always welcome to DM me, and I'll have a conversation with just about anybody as long as you're not painfully dumb or annoying. Um, all right, let's get right into it. I'm going to start us off with the frontline updates, like we always do here. So I'm going to take us over to my map first, because we will also be looking at the map of Deep State. They have provided some updates. So for the most part, other than 100 meters here or there, nothing's really changed in Krinky, Robitny, Nova Velika Novosilka. We saw some movement up here. I haven't mapped it yet, but again, just basically tactical advances in this on this front. Nothing major, nothing significant, really worth writing home about. Um, uh, Over here in Nova Mikhailivka, we've seen a continuation of assaults in this direction to the north of Nova Mikhailivka. Nothing to map yet, but I would expect probably today or tomorrow we will see something close to. Let's see. I'll just do this just so you guys can see. Probably something close to this occur, where this tree line is captured, that part of this tree line is captured, and the Russians advance further and closer to Nova Mikhailivka. I could see that definitely happening in the next 24 to 48 hours, just from the reports coming out of this area. I could also see something like this occurring, where this tree line up here is taken, and the Russian military is able to expand their zone of control to the north. There's a lot of pushing going on in this area, so just be on the lookout for updates regarding that. But other than that, the Russians are continuing to push in this region. They recaptured some territory. I believe this field was recaptured from the recent Ukrainian push, which I have since deleted. I believe. Let's see. Do I have it? No, I don't. Yeah, so I deleted the Ukrainian advance here because on my map I just show Ukrainian, the Ukrainian side as satellite mapping, and then the Russian side is red. So when the Ukrainians make an advance, I'll show it in blue, like I do with the Russian side, showing it in green, and then after a while, usually about 4 or 5 days, I'll turn it back red. So Ukrainian advanced in through this field, and the Russians captured back a small portion of this field, which will be mapped later when I have an actual geolocation for it. We do have a further confirmed advance, which used to be purple, which is this field just right outside of Marinka. You can see that the Russians are trying to expand their zone of control outside of Marinka now that the city has been captured. That would probably include everything in say something like this territory right here, using this reservoir as a natural barrier, and potentially capturing Horlivka down here. So I believe that this is currently the Russian goal around Marinka, after which I don't expect much Russian movement in this direction, just because of the extended logistics situation and everything going on here. I expect something like this in 2024 ish. Not saying that it wouldn't. It could be more than that in 2024, but through the expansion of Marinka, which is not the primary focus. I believe we will see something like this. And then the primary focus being expanding south, taking out Konstantinivka, Novomikhailivka, Pobieta, and then Ugledar, then collapsing this whole southern flank. That is the primary goal now, and not necessarily pushing up towards Krasnohrivka right here, which is another important defensive position of the Ukrainians on this Donetsk front. This will likely have to be surrounded and taken in that manner, just because of how strong the defenses are in this location. Coming up to Avdiivka, no map changes here right now of any significance. I still have this mapped as blue, Ukrainian advance here. I haven't seen any evidence either way, so I'm just going to leave it in blue for now. I updated the map a little bit just because this area is kind of unknown right now. I do believe that the Ukrainians are still defending this area even after this breakthrough that really hampers their supply. I don't know how long this area will be able to stand, but the Ukrainians are very excellent at holding salients at any cost for a very long time. So not expecting any movement necessarily here. The Russians are still consolidating their territory gained through this breakthrough, which was rather significant. And the Ukrainians have been constantly counterattacking, trying to reverse these gains, and it just hasn't worked out yet so far. Moving up to the Bakhmut section, we have a confirmed Ukrainian advance just north of Bogdanivka. This is an important advance because this hill area is what the Russians need to control Bogdanivka and then apply pressure to Ivanovets to the south. So this is the proper counterattack. Will this stand? Who knows? But this is the right area for the Ukrainians to counterattack, to be delaying this Russian advance in this area. Moving up towards Terny, where we have the most significant progress. We have a Russian push out into these fields. There had been earlier rumors that the Russians had reached this area, which were then sort of adjusted based off a Ukrainian counterattack. The way I looked at it, it was something more like this in the past, where the Russians were up against this field, down here more. But now the situation is such that it looks like this. This is highly significant. This puts Ukrainian positions in Terny in a very difficult position. Remember, this is one of the few crossings. I don't know if it's still open. We did see tanks get destroyed right here a while back. Some leopards that had crossed the river. And if you look at the distance right now, we're looking at, oops, sorry, I need the ruler. We're looking at about 2 kilometers from Terny, or 1 mile. So that should just basically give you a real good idea of what the situation is on this front. There's there's basically a mile right here of operating space for the Ukrainians. That's not great. This whole salient right here is in a very difficult position now with this advance. The Russians will likely try to push into Terny or Yampolivka, gaining access to this highway, which would cut off supply south and north, just depending on how far they push, and then just continue pushing up along one of the few roads in the region, securing a majority of this salient right here. Once this salient is secured and Russia has a defensive line along these rivers, the battles for Torsk and Zakharine right here will commence, as well as probably increased battles in this salient as Ukrainian supply becomes more and more difficult. Not salient so much, sorry, the forestry right here, as Ukrainian supply becomes more and more difficult. But those are the updates we have for today. Again, these positions are being consolidated. So everything is kind of steady. We do have a rumored Ukrainian retreat from this forested area to the west, I would say, of Sinkivka. Remember, Sinkivka is of vital importance. Holding this city maintains supply for basically this entire area right here. So Sinkivka is of vital importance, and that's why the Ukrainians are fighting so hard for it, as well as why the Russians are fighting so hard for it. If the Ukrainians did retreat from right here, we could be looking at Sinkivka becoming Russian very soon. But that's it for the updates. Very slow in terms of progress right now. And I say very slow. These are both significant advances by the Russians compared to what we've seen in the past. But as for today, just not a lot of news. All right. Okay. Back to the topic at hand and what this is all titled. What this episode is titled. Which is the sinking of the Ivanovets. Ivanovets, the Russian anti-ship missile cruiser that was sunk this morning. This morning, my time, mid-afternoon Ukraine time, I believe. But we have some things to talk about in reference to that. So, as we get started, I have been receiving a lot of this weird cope talk lately. Anytime you decide to talk about a Russian loss, apparently it's a cope, even if you're just trying to analyze it and understand what significance it will have on the battlefield. And I've specifically asked everybody who's brought this up and called me, said that I'm coping and all of this stuff. Well, I think it is titled cruiser, though, right? I'm seeing some people saying it's not a cruiser. Yeah, it's not a giant missile cruiser like it doesn't fire calibers. It has two, or I guess four, anti-ship missiles positioned on the side. It's a very small boat. It's not big. And it was sunk by Ukrainian surface unmanned drones very effectively, I might add. They swarmed the boat. It looked like the boat took about 3 hits. On the third hit, the anti-ship missile system that was positioned on the side of the boat ended up exploding, which definitely sunk this boat. We haven't got an actual casualty list yet, but considering that this boat had a crew of about 40 people, you could always just say that 40 people died. However, considering the operational status of this boat, considering what it had been doing in the Black Sea and for the Black Sea Fleet, I don't think that there were 40 people on this boat. That makes no sense. That is a fully stocked and equipped crew, and it just doesn't need that to operate. So I personally, I don't believe that there will be 40 casualties on this boat, but that is the maximum number of casualties that could have been sustained by the Russian Navy in this incident. So when we talk about the boat, I'll actually go over to my Twitter real fast, and I will show you guys some of the videos of what we saw. Here we go. Let's go down. Oh, look at that idiot right there. Retweet this real fast. So as you can see right here, let me just make sure it popped up. Yeah, okay. You can see this is the Ukrainian claimed destruction that has occurred to the Black Sea Fleet since the beginning of the war. A lot of these damaged claims might be exaggerated. The destroyed claims are likely accurate. Obviously, we have the Moskva, the first ship that was sunk, the flagship of the Russian Black Sea Fleet. This was the most significant loss. The most important loss of all of these boats was the Moskva, and it actually, I mean, it was a very old ship. The entirety of the Black Sea Fleet is rather old, and it isn't really doing a lot in terms of assisting the SMO. So, but this being the most significant loss of the bunch, here we can see the Ivanovets right here that was lost. It's a very small ship. It's one of the smallest of the surface combatant boats, and it was only used for anti-ship operations. So it was equipped with anti-ship missiles, and its primary task would be engaging enemy surface vessels, which we know in the Black Sea there are basically no enemy surface vessels for these ships to target. And that's why I put it in the category of like almost non-operational. It's still operating in its minimal capacity, but it's not taking on any military operations that we know of. If you look down here, you can see the other ships that have been targeted, the landing ships doing nothing. Again, this submarine was in dry dock when it was hit, which makes it very exposed and weak. It is a loss, so this is a loss. But again, it was all of these targets are rather weak and very unprotected targets. I don't know when this rescue ship was lost. I'm not sure. I don't know why that's even on here. But that's so far. This is the damage, and this is the ship right here that was lost today. I'm going to take us down further, and we can see here is a diagram of the ship. You can see how large the anti-ship missile capabilities of the ship are. The the ship is basically a platform for these anti-ship missiles. That's all it is. It has some small defensive capabilities you can see here and on the backside, but all in all, there's just not a lot going on. Here's its air defense. It's just basically a man pad on the back of the craft. But the primary focus of this ship is anti-ship missiles. So that's what this ship was used for. Obviously, it wasn't being used because there's no anti-ship missile activities occurring right now. But still, it is a big deal. The ship did get sunk. It is a loss for the Russian Black Sea Fleet, and it will it won't have necessarily impacts on the SMO, but it does reveal things such as weaknesses in Russia's maritime security. And what it speaks to more for me is the flaws of the Russian military brass at the higher level, not taking necessary steps to protect its fleet in Sevastopol and around Crimea. And the big one would be, why are they in that port at all? Why are their boats in a position where they are extremely vulnerable to these drone attacks and missile attacks? Why have ships there at all? These ships are not doing anything. They're not supporting the SMO. It's sort of this pride thing where Sevastopol is the home of the Black Sea Fleet. That's where the ship should be. Instead of just taking the honor hit and moving all of these ships to I can never remember the name. Hold on. Let me go look real fast. It's the port just to the south. Novorossiysk? Yeah, I can never say that. I don't even know how it's pronounced. I'm sure you guys will laugh at me. But there's that port. Here, I'll show you guys on the map. There is a port. So this is this is where the ship was damaged. I believe was just right outside of Sevastopol, the area where most of the Russian Black Sea Fleet, especially the caliber capable missile launching platforms, are now over here in Novorossiysk. So this is a much safer port. Obviously, the distance that drones have to travel is much further. There's a lot more time to spot these drones, intercept them. It's outside of missile range, unlike Sevastopol. The whole Black Sea Fleet should just be moved over here. But this is where we talk about military, high-level military incompetence, or maybe not so much incompetence because they know what they should be doing, but really what's occurring is there is this constant political war that's going on both sides that you rarely see. And just on a personal level, I have to ask myself, would I want to be the Russian naval commander who was bullied out of the home of the Black Sea Fleet in Sevastopol by Ukraine and NATO. That is a strong reputation hit, um, and it's something that should be added into people's analysis of why Russia is doing what they're doing. Um, if Russia moves out, if the Russian commander moves the Black Sea Fleet out from the Sevastopol and into a different area of the Black Sea, uh, it could be the end of somebody's career. Now, is that a reason not to do something? No. But is it a reason why some things happen? Absolutely. And these things are never going to change about war. Ukraine should be doing things that they're not doing because for political reasons, right? Um, they should be retreating from places that are ridiculous to hold, but they don't. And there are political reasons behind that, and it's something that you always have to take into your analysis. Um, when it comes to this vote specifically, the reason why I was getting called, Coper, whatever, whatever you want to call it, is because I said that this has no effect on the SMO. And I'm still waiting to hear somebody give me a proficient argument as to why this ship is valuable to the SMO, why this ship is even valuable to the Black Sea Fleet currently. With the Bosphorus closed, there's no American ships coming into the region. There's nothing for this anti-ship or this, anti-missile, anti-ship missile carrying vessel. There's no purpose for it, right? Does that mean you want it to get sunk? Absolutely not. Is this an embarrassment for the Russians and the Russian Navy? Of course it is. I mean, this is ridiculous that this is still happening at this point. Does it affect the war? Absolutely not. Will this loss be replaced immediately after the war? Of course. If you go back through history, you can look at how many times the Black Sea Fleet has been destroyed during World War II, as a specific example, and how that doesn't really change the war, right? It doesn't affect the war. The war is a land war. It will be won on the land, and this ship is not valuable in that sense, in that regard. Like I said, you don't want to lose it. You don't want to lose the men. And again, this might sound very callous to you guys as I'm saying this, potentially 40 men lost their lives. But when you're talking about analysis, especially war analysis, you kind of have to shut off that emotional side of your brain that is thinking about what moms and dads back home are thinking when they lose their kids, right? That's not how war works. You can think about that, and that's how you will end up losing a war. Really what you have to it's just numbers, right? And it's really, really hard to look at people as just numbers. But that's how wars are won is through this sort of thinking. And in that cold calculated line of thinking, this ship makes absolutely no difference to the ongoing war, right? So that's why I've been called a coper. And if that makes me a cope lord, then it is what it is. I'm still waiting for a good argument. Sorry, getting phone calls. I think that pretty much covers everything. Does anybody have any questions when it comes to the boat? I haven't seen anybody do any super chats, so obviously. Yep, cope, more cope. Yep, and again, so this is funny. We see cope, more cope, whatever. That's still not an argument. I'm still waiting for an argument. To me, the cope seems like trying to make this ship that got sunk into a much bigger deal because Ukraine can't win anywhere else on the battlefield, right? Right? Because if this boat was so important, why hasn't it done anything throughout this entire SMO? It's sat in a port for 2 years doing nothing, right? So yeah, replacing it costs money. Sure. What does Russia have literally endless of right now? Money. Their economy is doing much better than it was before the war. Their industry, their military industry is much stronger than it was before the war. What does it affect? I'm sorry, but even if they never replace this boat, what does it affect? Again, I'm still waiting for answers. Still no answers? Nobody? Nobody? Cool. Okay, got it. All right, let's see. We did get one question. Here we go. What will be the repercussions if Zaluzhny? Okay, well, this is a perfect segue. We'll just move right into this because there's no point in talking about this boat anymore. Because again, nobody can provide a good argument for why it's actually important. Only people can say cope and that it's expensive, I guess. But everything is expensive. How many tanks is Russia losing in Ukraine right now? Hundreds, according to you guys. Are they replacing all of them? Has anybody at all talked about the cost of these tanks, these BMPs, these aircraft? No, it's because war is all about money and it just makes people more money. So talking about how much a ship costs is just completely irrelevant. Unless that ship was $5 and a $1.2 million missile or something hit it. That would be the only time we could talk about cost benefit ratios, but now not so much. The Ukrainians successfully sunk a Russian ship. That's the end of the story, right? That's it. That's all we can say about it. Let's move into the ongoing internal rumors that Zaluzhny is going to be replaced here soon. I've thought that this was coming for a long time. Zaluzhny is not a very strong military leader. He hasn't shown through the entire SMO that he is capable. I do believe that I don't believe that he's necessarily a bad leader. He's just nothing special. He can be very easily replaced. I've had a lot of conversations with other people who are very good analysts about this, and they've said similar things that Zaluzhny is kind of an idiot. I mean, and that's just me talking from a completely unexperienced position. Don't take what I'm saying as a literal take. Just in my from what I've seen, there is nobody on either side of this conflict, the Russian side or the Ukrainian side, that really points to military genius, somebody who can't be replaced by somebody else. If any general in the Russian army or any general in the Ukrainian army died right this minute, they would be replaced tomorrow, and I don't think that you would really notice much of a change on the battlefield, right? I'm not seeing a lot of independent movements. A lot of this seems like it's political from both sides. The military decisions. Zelensky definitely has his hand on what's going on in Ukraine, and it does seem as though Putin is holding back his military from doing things like infrastructure strikes, and bridges are still up, power generation is still up. So there are further steps that the Russian military would probably like to take that are not being taken because of the political, the economic consequences that these actions might have. This is something that a lot of people don't talk about when they talk about escalating. Remember, Russia is in a balance right now. They are trying to maintain international relations, international trade, trying to keep their economy strong. They are in a transitional period away from the Western monetary system into their own monetary system, into this sort of BRICS idea, this multipolar idea. Whether you buy into it or not, that's whatever. But Russia is in a transitionary period. Even if there is no alternative financial system that comes about, banking system that comes about, Russia is still transitioning because of the sanctions, right? All of these sanctions were put on the Russian economy. The Russian economy had to transition, become more independent, more invested in non-Western markets such as China and India. So the Russians are in a transition, and every single action that they take in Ukraine could have massive extending consequences into their economic and international relation spheres of influence. And they don't want that because right now Russia is winning everywhere, diplomatically, economically. The US has failed in its sanctions regime. The US is becoming more and more isolated. compared to where they were before the SMO began. I'm not saying that Russia is achieving all of this great victory. I'm saying Russia is surviving currently when the US has been putting a lot of pressure on Russia, and the US has come off worse for wear when it comes to its international relations with places like Saudi Arabia, with places like China. A lot of Eastern Europe is now beginning to struggle. Are you done? Sorry, my dog is making noises for no reason. Um, and as the U.S. continues to do, like we see in Gaza, Gaza has put a really bad taste in a lot of the Middle East's mouth towards America after America was potentially on the road to saving its position in the Middle East. After the Afghanistan pullout and everything like that, it seemed like the U.S. had an opportunity to fully pull out of the Middle East and reset relations in the region. And after the October 7th incident and the Gaza situation, basically the whole Middle East now has a absolutely horrible perspective on Israel, and by extension the U.S., who is fundamentally supporting Israel in its actions in Gaza. Um, these these actions, like the actions that we see in Ukraine, and the way that Russia has been handling, the escalation ladder in Ukraine, not taking out the nuclear power plants, and I don't mean causing a nuclear disaster, but basically making them inoperable through their connections and as a source of generation, taking out the other energy generating sources in Ukraine. Without doing all of that, uh, Russia has maintained this. Really, what they talk about all the time is this is an SMO, not a war, right? They're not trying to destroy the Ukrainian population. They're not necessarily trying to destroy the Ukrainian state. They're trying to meet their military objectives in Ukraine without uh, taking that escalating step towards what you would consider a war. Now, I consider what's happening in Ukraine a war, but you definitely can see where the Russians are putting the brakes on certain things compared to, say, what the U.S. did in Iraq, right? During both invasions. We didn't see anything like that at the beginning of the war. We haven't seen anything like that to this date. The bridges are still up. The leadership is still in position. Electricity, internet, everything is still on. So removing by doing all of that, I totally forgot what I was originally talking about. However, the U.S. is fundamentally, I believe, losing internationally, whereas the Russians are succeeding. When it comes to, oh yes, generals being replaced. So Zaluzhny is there's nothing about Zaluzhny that is particularly special. I believe that the political pull that he has is the biggest problem here. A lot of people do not want him removed, especially Western pundits, because I believe that Zaluzhny is a more level-headed individual. He is not somebody who is going to make a politically motivated military decision that will end in disaster, like Zelensky would have wanted. A much stronger push during the counteroffensive, I believe, is where a lot of this disagreement comes from, where the political leadership in Ukraine really wanted a massive all-in push in the south, and Zaluzhny went with more of these piecemeal sort of attacks that really didn't end up achieving anything. I believe that's where a lot of this has started, and this is just a continuation. CNN seems to believe that Zaluzhny will be removed. They're just looking for the proper replacement. I've said for a long time, pundits, I said pundits, a long time, people that are talking about Ukraine in the West, that the people who are the advocates for this Ukraine project, that's who I'm talking about. They don't. There is. They are looking for a new person to replace Zaluzhny, a person who will maintain the political connections that he had that will actually benefit Ukraine, and it's going to be a very hard task. I think that uh, the biggest thing that can happen, and this is what I've said since early 2023. You guys can go on my Twitter and look. I believe that the next president of Ukraine will be Bundanov, the head of the SBU. Right. I believe that this is the next step, and I believe that he will be put into the position of commander in chief of the AFU, and then after that, he will likely be forced into the presidency after a collapse happens or some sort of coup happens. Remember, he has all of the intelligence connections. He's the CIA puppet. He's going to do whatever the West wants him to do. He is going to do what the more hardline individuals, both in the West and in Ukraine, want him to do. So, yeah. He's a straight up Nazi, isn't he? I don't know if he's flashing. Yeah, Budanov. Is that not what I say? Did I say Bundanov? I don't know. It doesn't matter. You guys know exactly who I'm talking about. It does not matter. Budanov, right? Sorry, messed up his name. But everybody knows exactly who I'm talking about. The head of the SBU. He is, I believe that he is the man, right? He's the guy. He's going to I believe that he's going to be put into power, and then he's going to continue to succeed individuals because he is the guy for the West. He's going to do what the West wants. Budanov, emphasis on the second syllable. Listen, guys, listen. I'm a American piece of trash. English is my first and really only good language. I know a little bit of Spanish, and I'm trying to learn Russian. But when I am reading these things off real quick, just assume, right? Just assume. We can go ahead and get into questions though right now. If you guys want to start throwing up questions, I was just going to talk about the Middle East a little bit. We have confirmation now. It seems like there will be a temporary ceasefire in Gaza. I don't know if this is about hostages, but the 55th IDF brigade has been removed from Gaza and is probably being positioned north. I do believe that the Gaza saga is sort of coming to an end. I don't think that the Israelis really achieved what they wanted to in this region, and I think that they are really looking for a advance in a conflict to the north against Hezbollah, because that's the real enemy. So we have that lined up, and we also have word that the U.S. is now going to go ahead with strikes in Iraq and Syria, targeting Iranian, probably IRGC units in that region. But they've already come out and said it. It's been 72 hours since they've been talking about it. Everything's been evacuated. Everything vital and important has been removed, probably by design. The U.S. does not want an expanded war in the Middle East, and that's what they're looking at coming up against. And so by doing that, they won't, they're not going to actually strike time-sensitive, valuable targets. They're going to make a flashy show of things, show that they're trying to do something, and then say, well, that's good enough. Just like the Houthi situation, the U.S. is not, they're just punching sand. That's what they're doing. Saudi Arabia couldn't stop the Houthis with air supremacy for how many years? And now the U.S. thinks that they're going to be able to stop them. That's not how these organizations operate. It's not how the Taliban operated in Afghanistan. It's like we don't learn lessons from our wars. And even our president said that the strikes against the Houthis aren't doing anything, but we're going to continue them anyway. It's just ridiculous. All right, let's get into some questions. What does it take for Europeans to stand up against Americans? How to turn the tide? I think that is only going to happen if the U.S. severely backstabs Europe. Which, I mean, after Nord Stream, I don't know what the U.S. could possibly do to Europe to threaten its energy security or anything like that, and actually expect the Europeans to turn on them. Europe is slowly just looking like this flaccid puppet. Every single country in the EU is looking like this, where they have no self interest at all, no self preservation. They don't care about what's happening in their own nations. If you look at what like Macron is dealing with the farmers and everything, none of that gets any. I don't know why that just happened. My mic got muted for no reason. If you look at all of these countries in Europe, they are not fighting for their own self interests at all. I would say there would need to be a major economic collapse and then a major political shift. Unfortunately, what was probably going to happen is you're going to see that political shift come in the form of far right parties coming into power, potentially far left parties, if you actually know what the Nazis are, and that this is a very real possibility. This could very possibly happen, where you see the I would say unfavorable political parties, the nationalistic political parties, the for the people parties, uh, coming into power, and that would be the only way I would see them turning against the U.S. Unfortunately, the U.S. is the gravy boat. It's the money train. It has the economy. It has the military. It's very, very hard for these European countries to move away from the U.S. I don't even know if it's really in their own self interest to move away from the US at this point, considering how weak they may potentially be on their own. It might just be a lack of options, honestly. And it's not to say that the people of Europe want something different, but the politicians, the people who are actually making the decisions, they don't. So, um, question: what is going to happen now without Zelensky? He's the Ukraine's best general, but Zelensky. Again, like I said, I don't think he's necessarily the best general. I think he's just in that position. I think that he will be replaced probably by somebody who's actually competent, and it will probably be a net negative for the Russian SMO. Does that mean that the Russians are going to lose? No. But I do believe that whoever gets put in will probably be more goal oriented, and there won't be the infighting that you see. So it could spell the end of Ukraine even quicker. But in my personal opinion, I believe that somebody like Bundanov getting in will be just a major headache for the Russians. Do you think the Russians will push out from the capture? This is the two settlements up in the north, Tabivka. Here, I'll put it up on the thing. Do you think the Russians will push out from the two settlements they captured in the Kupiansk area and try to launch an offensive? I think what you're seeing is the offensive. You're not going to see big arrows. You're going to see this slow grind. You're going to see the entire Ukrainian garrison in an area get eliminated by FPV drones, glide bombs, artillery, and then the Russians are going to push. This is what has been the methodology for the past year now, and it's not going to change. It's just going to be a consistent, slow grind where the Russians are letting the Ukrainians come into uncomfortable positions, like the situation across the Oskal River, which is not beneficial for Ukraine. The Russians are going to allow them to keep bringing their manpower in, destroying it, and then when progress happens, it happens. Can you please talk about the $50 billion aid package from the EU? What can EU? So this money, the $50 billion, is probably not going to be in the form of military aid at all. What Ukraine desperately needs is financial, monetary backing to keep their currency afloat and to keep their pensions being paid and stuff. Ukraine does not have a functioning internal economy anymore. They are basically giving away their wheat to try to keep this funding going. And all it is it's just going to maintain the state, which is of vital importance. This is a very, very important thing. Why it went the way that it did, with Hungary not passing the vote, dogs drinking water, with Hungary not passing the vote, using their veto power. This was never going to last. You guys have to remember that Hungary is a very small nation that is very reliant on EU funding. That once the EU threatened to cut that funding, everything kind of crumbles in terms of their veto. It's just blackmail. No individual nation in the EU can really stop the EU from doing what it wants to do. But they tried their best. And at the end of the day, I think that Hungary is going to win. Orban is going to win out of this with his constituents, and I don't think that there's any question that this funding is going to pass. I believe that the U.S. funding will pass. Will it happen without massive border reforms? Are the Democrats willing to go that far? I don't know. If Biden wins the election, you're going to see funding pass forever. There will be no end to it. If the Republicans win, you probably will still see the funding pass. But I mean, it is what it is. It might be less. Who knows? What happened to Surovikin? General Surovikin was removed from his post, which, I mean, this happens consistently through wars. Usually you don't remove your commander-in-chief like Zaluzhny, but generals are moved around. They are put into new positions. And sometimes generals are in positions that they shouldn't have been in from the beginning, even though you think that they are highly proficient generals. We really don't have any idea what was going on with Surovikin. We have ideas of what was happening with him that we apply to him, like the Surovikin line and stuff. But was that really him? What was going on behind closed doors? We really just can't tell. Do you believe that the Russians are capable of using tactical nuclear weapons on the front line? Yeah, I mean, they have them. They can use them if they want. But what is really the benefit of using a tactical nuclear weapon? The reason why you use tactical nuclear weapons is to eliminate airfields, naval bases, ports, that sort of stuff, and massive concentrations of armor and manpower, which doesn't exist in Ukraine. I mean, the war is so spread out and it's so diluted because of the threat of deep strike. There's no giant Soviet columns pushing the Rhine, that you can detonate nukes over and actually have some sort of benefit. The only thing nukes do is hurts Russia's position globally. So I absolutely think that it will not be used. Could they use them? Yes. Let's see. I get it. Yeah, big arms and shoulders, small head. That is me for sure. Let's see. All right, we got a question here. Just for me, Budanov looks like he has too many chromosomes, or not enough. Or not enough. It is what it is. Why is Europe blocking imports of Ukrainian agriculture products? Because Europe is trying to balance its own domestic issues with its support for Ukraine. So domestically, Ukrainian agriculture, especially right now with how cheap it's coming across the border, is undercutting and outpricing Europe's domestic production of agricultural goods. So a lot of the protests you're seeing by farmers is basically saying, hey, stop taking all of their food because you're hurting your farmers in country and we vote. So that's part of it. All right. Let's see. Questions. Yeah, if you guys wouldn't mind, just while we're in a small break where I'm looking for more questions, if you guys wouldn't mind subscribing, liking this, if you're enjoying it, I'd really appreciate it. It helps me get around. It also helps me sort of mentally kind of be like, yeah, I need to come back and keep doing this because people care, people are here watching and so on. So if you guys don't mind doing that, it's a big help for me. It's the easiest way you can support me. Let's see. How is the media in the U.S. reporting on the Texas thing, and how do you see it? I think it's a crock of shit. This whole we want to protect the border. It's just political. It's just a political circus. It's all it is. You got to remember we're in a voting year, and while the actual issue of the border is a significant issue that needs to be addressed, none of what's happening right now is actually addressing that. It's everybody just trying to secure votes for this next election. The Republicans are playing hardball, trying to get some border agreement, and they're using Ukraine as the blackmail for that. Ukraine is being used as the blackmail because the Democrat Party is reliant. Something is going on with my mic down here where it gets unplugged. I think that's what's going on. But yeah, the Texas situation. I mean, if you look at, I was just down in El Paso the other day, like this weekend. I was down in El Paso, and I was right on the border, and nothing has changed. Literally nothing has changed. They're talking about putting up razor wire and all that. It's just nonsense. It's one little area that the media is hyper focused on. If you walk, a mile down the road, there's no razor wire on the fence. So it's just a crock of shit. It's a way to keep everybody distracted and voters interested in other things. I'm telling you, anything you see on the news it's just nonsense. There's no civil war going to happen. Nobody wants to fight. That's not real. It's just political cock measuring. That's all it is. If the U.S. uses nukes, why shouldn't Russia use them? Probably for the moral reasons, I would say. Russia probably doesn't want to use nukes because nukes aren't usually a good thing. Like a lot of people die. So yeah. This is not a lady dog. Hades, come here. Come here. This is. Oh no. What happened? Oh, I took a screenshot. Oops. Took a screenshot, guys. Hold on. All right, there we go. Sorry. This is not a girl dog. This is a giant boy dog. You can come here. You can come here. Come on, the people want to see you. Come here. Look at the camera right here. Look up here. There it is. He's a good dog. Say hi. Say hi. Say hi. He's awesome. He's awesome. All right, we got another question here. Thank you so much, Raphael. Why do you think people are taking Zelensky seriously when they're saying they're going to put an army of 800,000 soldiers together? Yeah, so the talk of the mobilization, the 500,000, so on and so forth. That's all just again, where this is the same thing they did last year. They're trying to redo it again. Remember the 21 brigades that are set for the counteroffensive, the NATO trained army, so on and so forth. They're just doing the exact same thing again and hoping that it sells better. I don't think it will, but what else are they going to do? They're already talking about how they're not even reaching their monthly recruitment goals and their mobilization goals because there's just not enough manpower that they can actually take away from the functioning state for the war. So Let's see. Good question. Thank you. Can your dog hunt? No, my dog is dumb as hell. Big ol' indoor softy. I wish he could. If I took him out, nah, I'm probably just hyping you up, huh? Nah, he's more like a show dog, like a lay there on the couch sort of dog. That's more what he does. But he's good at it. He's good at it though. I love that dog, dude. Your take on rumors about Britain mobilization? Good fucking luck. That dude, the U.S. and the British military, in terms of their current manpower, is so unbelievably abysmal. You guys, I don't think you quite understand the scope of how bad the situation is with recruitment in the U.S. and Britain. It's tragic, like tragically bad. If you drink, how much do you get? Wait, wait, what? If you drink too much, do you get calibrated? Oh, no, I get, let's see. Sometimes I drink. Got my tequila on hand, always ready to go. But I don't drink as much. This is more my speed. And here in New Mexico, it is legal. So that's more that's what I like to do. I'm more of a sit back and smoke and then think. But sometimes, what time is it? Oh, it's 1 p.m., boys. It's 1 p.m. You know what that means? 5 o'clock somewhere, right? That's good. That is fucking good, guys. Tequila is good. Cheers. Cheers, everybody. Yeah, I was thinking I'm also holding this. I also was thinking about doing a stream where I smoke and drink maybe and just hang out, more relaxed streams. So if you guys think that that's a cool idea, maybe I'll do that. You just let me know right now in the chat if you want that. Um, but yeah, nothing beats a good tequila. I prefer silver tequila, but this was pretty good. It tasted really good. I would recommend. It's at Costco. It's super cheap and it tastes awesome. Better than other more expensive tequilas I've had. So, let's see. Have a guest on if you're doing it. Yeah, no, I'll probably do like a bro chat. I'll have like Alex on or some other people, and maybe just do a little live stream where we talk about stuff. Come check into DPA's open mics on the weekends. I've done it once or twice. I just usually like I don't want to do the math in my head about like the time zone difference. And it's usually at some weird time in the morning. Oh look, this is the one great thing about having a huge slobber dog is that he literally gets slobber on you every time he comes near. Huh. Oh, okay, here we go. We got a question. I was a Marine for 10 years. It will take us 5 years to get some form of cohesion in the army. Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. For sure. For sure. So he says that it will take, it takes years and years. Any army that's being produced right now by the Ukrainians is going to basically fall flat. Any army that's produced by the Ukrainians right now is going to be a conscript army. It's going to be a hold the line army. It's not going to be an army of well trained, military minded individuals. So that is definitely correct. And they don't. I mean, they just don't have the time to even get those 100,000 men trained for 6 months. They need these reserves on the front line right now because the Russians are continuously now bringing more and more men into the SMO area. I do believe that the numbers are something like 600,000 to 600,000 right now. And so the manpower disposition is definitely not in Ukraine's favor anymore. Why can't Russia defend its ships? It should be. Listen, if I was in charge over there would be some changes coming down the line in short order. I'm not saying that Russia doesn't make mistakes, because they absolutely do. And hello, 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 hello. That's not all, folks. That's not all. My mic. Please, please tell me that it's back. Is it back? Working good. All right. I just unplugged it and replugged it back in, I guess. So that's all that was required. I have no idea. All right. Dude, I don't know what was going on. That's the first time that's ever happened to me, actually. Let me see. All right. All right. All right. All right. All right. I'm sorry, everybody. I'm sorry. I don't know what happened there with the mic. It just kept saying that it was like auto muting my mic. I don't know why. All right. All right. Let's get some questions. Let's get some questions going. Yes, Russia needs to defend their ships better in the Black Sea. That's where we left off. Like I said, if I was in charge, there would be some changes coming down the line, but that's not right. That's not what's going on. So, do you think the HIMARS systems have been destroyed before? Yes, I do. I believe that any system that is in Ukraine right now has suffered some form of attrition, especially ones that are being actively hunted, like HIMARS. But I'm quieter now. What the? Is it still happening? Hello? 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 Okay. I think it's good. Yeah, I think it's good. Will Abrams be destroyed this year? I still don't know where these Abrams are at. I'm almost positive that either the Abrams that were delivered were basically delivered with a little note attached saying, "Don't use these. We're just sending these so it makes it look like we're doing something," or they literally sent just 20 or 31 of the shittiest Abrams that they had that are complete jokes and absolutely cannot run and work in the battlefield. And so, I think that's what we're looking at. How good of a general do you think Syrskyi is? I don't think that there are particularly any good generals on either side, the Russian or the Ukrainian side, right now. I just haven't seen anything that would allude to any form of military genius on the battlefield. So they're all just kind of average career military men. Defending ships is hard. Yes, it's hard, especially against little black drones that are just on the surface that are very difficult to spot, especially at night, for sure. So yeah, it's one of those things where it's, it's like getting upset when those 40 Americans, 3 of them died, 40 of them were injured, got hit by that drone at the base. Right? You should be expecting these drones to come through. This is something that it's a very real threat in the region. You know that the Iranians have been already targeting your other bases. How does this happen? How does this drone get through? Because air defense, just like any other defense, is not a foolproof system. It is not designed to intercept 100% of everything coming at it. What it is it's a way of minimizing loss. This one drone got through. It should not have happened. It did happen. These drones got through. It hit the ship. Should not have happened. It did happen. You guys got to remember that this is war. This is just how war goes. Honestly, like you can't nitpick every single loss. You can't overanalyze every single little thing. People die. Equipment is destroyed. This is just something that's going to happen. I've been saying it for a long time. It's time to replace Putin and Lavrov. The two relax. So, Putin is there's a lot that people say about Putin. I believe that Putin is playing a very good long game. I think that's a lot of people want the war in Ukraine to end tomorrow. And if you want that, yes, putting a hardliner into Putin's position is perfect. Putin, though, has the connections. He has the friendships. He has the everything outside of Russia and inside of Russia. You have somebody who is a central point leading with a intended goal and purpose, right? If you replace him with somebody else, they're going to come in with different aspirations. They're going to not have the connections with Xi, with other leaders of the world who are actively supporting Russia through their SMO. And it just really doesn't add anything by removing Putin right now. Now, if Putin started making a bunch of mistakes, fine. But the stuff that I believe that a lot of people are really concerned about is the stuff that is more hype and PR than actual, wartime strategy. Like, it doesn't affect what's happening on the battlefield. So I'm also kind of a Putin fanboy. I don't know. I appreciate his political career, and I feel like I have a good understanding of where he's going and where his idea for Russia is. I would never replace Lavrov. I think Lavrov has been an absolute all-star this entire SMO. He's done amazing work for Russia all over the world. So no, Lavrov needs to stay. He is definitely one of the stronger points of Russia and why it's been so successful in its foreign policy. This war is just one siege after another. Yep, and that's what it's going to continue to be, right? The Russians are not looking for breakthroughs necessarily in the way that a lot of people want them to be. They're not attacking in like a hyper aggressive way. So all in all, it's not. You're going to continue seeing sieges until there's no more Ukrainian army to siege. Question. The longer the war continues, the more Ukraine will hate the West. Doesn't a long war benefit Russia? I believe so. Yeah. And I think that's what they've decided on. They're going to get slapped in the face. They're going to take these hits. Planes are going to go down. Expect more cargo planes, more reconnaissance aircraft, more ships. Just don't expect any of that to end anytime soon. It's not going to change tomorrow. Why would it change tomorrow when it didn't change yesterday, right? These are expected losses that the Russians are going to continue to take because of the way that they are persecuting this war, and that's the route that they've chosen. Later, Fran. Have a good day, man. Let's see. I think that's where I'm going to wrap it up today, guys. I've been on here for an hour and 15 minutes. I appreciate you all so much. Please follow me on Telegram, Twitter, and subscribe to me on YouTube, of course. Subscribe to me and like if you haven't already and you're watching this. I really appreciate you all so much coming in here for your questions. I will put up a poll and see if you guys want a drunk stream or a high stream or something. We could have some fun just chilling out, messing around with some good friends. So we might do that. I really appreciate you all, and I will see you next time. Take care, everyone. Goodbye.